After getting into it with her guy best friend, she pulled me aside and said, "You need to apologize to him, or we're done." I just stared at her, kind of stunned. Then she hit me with, "He's been around longer than you, and he matters more to me." I didn't say a word. I just walked out, got in my car, and drove off. 3 days passed before she showed up outside my apartment, crying and begging me to forgive her. I'm not a writer by any means, so bear with me here. Never really thought I'd be putting all this out there, but everything that's happened lately has me seriously questioning things. I figured getting some outside perspective might help make sense of it. I'm 43 now. Divorced 6 years ago from a general contractor. We've got a teenage daughter who lives with her mom full-time. I've been seeing Brooke, she's 39, for a little over a year. We met while I was renovating the coffee shop she manages. Pretty classic story, she'd bring me coffee during my shifts, we'd chat on my breaks. After a while, I asked her out. We hit it off right away. Our senses of humor just clicked. We're both into hiking and being outdoors, both been through marriages already, and neither of us is looking to go down that road again anytime soon. It felt easy, comfortable, but not in a boring way. At least, that's what I believed. Before I continue, do not forget to subscribe to the channel, put likes, so let's continue. Then came Jason. He's 41, and, according to Brooke, he's been her best friend since college. They apparently dated briefly back in their sophomore year, realized they worked better as friends, and have been attached at the hip ever since. He was the man of honor at her wedding and helped her through the divorce. Basically, he's a permanent fixture in her life. Over the past year, I've seen Jason plenty of times, usually at social stuff like game nights, barbecues, or birthday parties. He's always been fine. Not especially warm toward me, but never outright rude either. He just watches me, like he's constantly sizing me up to see if I measure up for Brooke. I've made the effort to get to know the guy, but he's always kept me at arm's length, polite but distant. And then everything went sideways last weekend. Brooke threw a dinner party at her place, nothing huge, just a handful of friends and some steaks on the grill. I showed up a little early to lend a hand with setting up. Jason was already there, standing in her kitchen like he owned the place, mixing drinks and giving her advice on how to cook. It didn't bother me at first. I figured they're close, it's probably normal for them. The night was going well overall, good food, solid conversation. After dinner, we all moved out to the back deck. Someone brought up politics, which, let's be honest, is never a great idea. Turns out Jason and I are on opposite ends of the political spectrum. Nothing extreme on either side, just different viewpoints. We kept it civil, but it was obvious we didn't see eye to eye. I wasn't trying to pick a fight, just sharing my perspective when someone asked. But every time I said something, Jason would glance at Brooke like he was waiting for her to correct me. When she didn't, his tone started to shift sharper, more dismissive. Finally, after one particularly condescending jab, I said, "Look, man, we can disagree without the attitude. We're all adults here." You'd have thought I smacked him. His face turned red, and he spun toward Brooke and said, "Are you seriously gonna let him talk to me like that?" Before she had a chance to respond, I cut in. "I'm talking to you, not her. I'm just asking for a little basic respect." Jason stood up, drink in hand, and shot back, "You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You never have. And Brooke knows it. She's just too nice to say it." I looked at her, expecting her to step in and calm things down, or at least stay neutral. But she just stared at Jason with this worried look, like she was afraid he was about to explode. "Jason, he didn't mean anything by it," she said, trying to smooth things over. "The hell I didn't," I replied. "I meant every word. We can disagree without being jerks about it." The whole deck went quiet. Everyone looked uncomfortable. Jason set down his drink with exaggerated care and said, "I think I'm gonna take off. Call me later, Brookie." Then he walked through the house and slammed the front door behind him. Brooke got up right away and followed him inside. I could hear their voices, low and muffled, but couldn't catch what they were saying. When she came back, she looked visibly upset. I asked her, "What was that all about?" She just muttered, "Not now," and forced a smile for the rest of the guests. The rest of the night felt tense. After everyone left, I stayed behind to help clean up. That's when she pulled me into the kitchen, arms crossed. "You need to apologize to Jason," she said flatly. I almost dropped the plates I was holding. "Wait, what?" I asked. "You embarrassed him in front of everyone. You owe him an apology." I carefully set the dishes down. "Brookieson, he was being rude and condescending. If anyone should be apologizing, it's him." She shook her head. "You don't get it. Jason doesn't deal with conflict well. And I don't appreciate being disrespected, I fired back. Did it ever cross your mind that your best friend might not actually like me? That's not true, she insisted, but her eyes darted away from mine. He's just protective. Protective? I'm not some threat. And even if I was, you're a grown woman. You don't need a guard dog. She shifted, clearly uncomfortable. Look, it's simple, she said. You either apologize to him or we're done. I just stared at her, not sure I even heard her right. You're seriously giving me an ultimatum over a disagreement with your buddy? That's when she dropped the line that hit me like a punch to the chest. He was here before you, and he matters more than you do. The words just hung there, heavy and unforgiving. It felt like getting the wind knocked out of me, but not so much because of what she said. It was the way she said it, so calm, like it was just a fact of life. Like it should have been obvious to me all along that I was never her first choice. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just looked at her, quiet, letting the reality of where I actually stood in her world sink in. Then I picked up my keys from the counter, walked out to my truck, and drove off. She called my name behind me, but I didn't turn around. By the time I got home, my phone was already lighting up with messages from her. Where did you go? We need to talk about this. You're overreacting. Please come back. We can work this out like adults. I didn't reply. Just shut my phone off and went straight to bed. Slept better than I probably should have, considering my relationship had just blown up. The next morning, I woke up to a dozen missed calls and even more texts. I read them, but didn't feel the urge to respond. Instead, I threw myself into work, focused on a bathroom remodel I'd been putting off. Got home that evening, put a game on, ordered some pizza. Life keeps moving, even when your heart's playing catch-up. By the third day, the calls were starting to slow down, but the texts were getting more intense, more emotional. It wasn't that I was giving her the silent treatment out of spite. I just needed time to think through what had happened, to make sense of what it all meant. Then, that evening, there was a knock at the door. I checked the peephole and saw Brooke standing there, eyes puffy and red, clutching her purse like it was the only thing keeping her upright. For a second, I thought about not answering. But that felt cowardly, and no matter what else I am, I'm not a coward. So I opened the door but stayed in the doorway. Can I come in? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't think that's a good idea, I said. Please, I need to explain, she said, eyes pleading. I hesitated for a moment, then stepped aside. She walked in and sat down on the couch. The same couch where we'd watched movies late into the night. Where she used to fall asleep on my shoulder. Where we'd made love on lazy Sunday afternoons. But now, she looked like a stranger sitting there. I'm sorry, she began, her voice cracking. When I said that, it was awful. I didn't mean it. Yeah, you did, I replied, calm but firm. That's why it hit so hard, because it was the truth. She broke down crying, going silent as tears carved streaks through her makeup. I've known him for so long. He's like family. I can't lose him. And I understood that, really, I did. What I couldn't wrap my head around was why holding on to him meant losing me. Why? I asked. Why does it have to be one or the other? It doesn't, she insisted. I was upset. You and Jason, you're the two most important men in my life. I didn't sit next to her. Instead, I took the armchair across from the couch, putting space between us. No, I'm not, I told her. You made that perfectly clear. And honestly, that's okay. You're allowed to choose who's most important in your life. But so am I. And I can't be in a relationship where I'm seen as disposable. You're not disposable, she cried. I love you. Do you? I asked. Or do you just love me when Jason gives his silent approval? Because the second I upset that balance, you were ready to cut me loose. She didn't say anything. So I asked, has he always had a problem with me? Or did it start when things got serious between us? She lowered her eyes and stared at her hands. He's scared you'll hurt me. Like my ex did. So he made himself your lifelong bodyguard. And you let him. It's not like that, she said, but even she didn't sound convinced. Isn't it, though? I pressed. Be honest, Brooke, has Jason ever liked anyone you've dated? The silence that followed said everything I needed to hear. I deserve more than this, I finally said. And honestly, so do you. Real friendship doesn't trap you like this. A real friend would want you to be happy, even if that means sharing your time and attention. She broke down again, harder this time. Then she told me she'd gotten into a massive fight with Jason after I left. That she realized there were things about their friendship that had been bothering her for years, even if she hadn't admitted it to herself before. That she wanted another shot with me. A part of me wanted to give in, hold her close, and pretend we could work through it. But a louder part remembered her cold, cutting words. The part that reminded me exactly where I stood in her life. I think we need some time apart, I said. I need to figure out if I can be in a relationship where I'll always be playing second fiddle. And you need to ask yourself if you're ready to be in a relationship where you're not constantly looking over your shoulder for someone else's approval. She didn't want to go. But before she left, she made me promise I'd at least think about giving us another shot. And I told her I would. And I have. It's been 5 days now. Brooke still texts me every day, not pushing, just checking in. She says Jason's furious with her for choosing me over him. Even though, technically, she hasn't made any choice yet. Just questioning the dynamic they've had for years was enough to set him off. Yesterday, her sister called me. Said she's been trying to talk sense into Brooke for a long time. Told me Jason's never wanted to be with Brooke romantically, but he also can't stand the idea of her being with someone else. That this same thing has happened with every guy she's dated since college. Honestly, I still don't know what I'm going to do. Part of me still loves her, still wants to believe that maybe we can figure this out. But there's another part, the more grounded part, that knows how hard it is to undo 2 decades of habits, especially when those habits are disguised as a friendship. So for now, I'm taking things one day at a time, trying to find some clarity on my own, and reminding myself that I'd rather be alone than be someone's second choice. Update. If anything major changes, I'll share it here. Also, wow, woke up to hundreds of comments. Thank you for all the support, the messages, the advice. It honestly means more than I can say. A few things people have asked that I want to address. 1. No, I don't think Brooke and Jason were ever sleeping together. This was never about sex, it's always been about control. 2. Some of you said I abandoned her at the dinner party. I didn't. I left after everyone else had gone. She'd made it crystal clear where I ranked in her life. I didn't storm out or cause a scene. I just removed myself from the situation. 3. Were there red flags I missed? Looking back, yeah, plenty. Jason texted her constantly, especially when we were together. She'd always respond immediately, no matter what we were doing. He had opinions on everything, where we should eat, what shows we should watch, whether I was right for her. And there was that weekend getaway he accidentally crashed 2 hours away from where he lives. 4. To those saying I'm being too hard on her, maybe. But I've done the whole low on the priority list thing before in my marriage. It took years of therapy to finally realize I deserved better. I'm not doing that again. 5. And yes, for clarification, we never lived together. Brooke has her own place across town. That's why she had to come to my door instead of already being there. We talked about moving in together eventually, but hadn't taken that step yet. Update. 10 days later. Brooke and I met for coffee yesterday, Neutral Ground, a little cafe downtown that neither of us really goes to. She looked tired, but also focused, determined. She was the one to speak first. Said she'd been doing a lot of thinking. Said she'd started seeing her friendship with Jason in a new light. That after our fight, she began noticing the way he quietly controlled her decisions, how he'd stir up drama whenever she got too close to someone else, how he'd conditioned her to prioritize his feelings over everyone else's, including her own. Then she showed me some of the texts he'd sent after their argument. They were manipulative, guilt-tripping. Stuff like, "You're throwing away 20 years of friendship for some contractor?" Reading them made my skin crawl. That wasn't a friendship. It was emotional blackmail. Then came the bombshell. Jason had never liked a single guy she dated. He'd gone out of his way to sabotage relationships. She told me he even once fed her ex-husband personal information about her past, stuff that stirred up trouble on purpose. And every time, she forgave him. Every single time. Put him first. "I don't want to live like that anymore," she told me. She said she'd already reached out to a therapist and had her first session scheduled for next week. I told her I was proud of her for finally seeing what this relationship really was. But I also told her I had to protect myself too. So we agreed to start slow. Some casual dates. No pressure. While she works through her stuff with a professional. Jason, of course, didn't take the boundary well. When ghosting her emotionally didn't work, he switched tactics. Showed up at her job. Sent flowers. Played the role of the loving friend who just wants her to be happy. Classic manipulator move. To her credit, Brooke held firm. Told him they needed serious space. Said that if their friendship had any chance of continuing, it would have to change completely. I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm not naive. Some of you told me to cut my losses and walk away, and I get it. But I've seen her start to fight for herself for the first time in a long time. And that matters. Update, 1 month later. Things have taken some unexpected turns. Brooke, stuck with therapy, hasn't missed a session. She's been holding her boundaries with Jason, even when he's thrown every manipulative trick in the book at her. Love bombing. Rage. Back to love bombing. The final straw came last week when he showed up drunk at her apartment, yelling through the door that I'd brainwashed her. She called the cops. They showed up and removed him from the property. She filed for a restraining order the next morning. It shook her up, but it also gave her clarity. She told me it felt like finally seeing the whole picture after years of only looking at scattered pieces. Since then, she's been reconnecting with old friends, the ones she drifted away from during Jason's reign over her life. Turns out, his possessiveness didn't just affect her love life. It slowly isolated her from everyone. As for us, we're officially dating again. Still slow. Still careful. I even went to one of her therapy sessions with her to learn how I can support her without crossing lines. Her therapist described breaking free from a codependent friendship like deprogramming from a cult. Takes time. Takes patience. Jason, meanwhile, is trying a new tactic, smearing her to mutual friends. He's had limited success. Most people have seen enough to know who he really is, especially after that drunken scene at her apartment. Some friends have even reached out to her to apologize for not saying anything sooner, for not seeing it before. Of course, not everyone's on board. A few acquaintances have taken Jason's side, buying into his twisted version of events. Brooke says that's been painful, but also revealing. It's shown her who's really in her corner. And her workplace, thankfully, she and Jason don't work at the same company, has stepped in, too. After he kept trying to contact her through her company email, their HR department documented everything. They blocked his email domain and notified front desk security about the restraining order. 6 months later. Brooke and I are still together, and honestly, things have never been better. She's stuck with therapy, and it hasn't just helped her unpack what happened with Jason, it's helped her recognize other patterns too. Stuff from her childhood, past relationships, even how she talks to herself when things get hard. The restraining order against Jason expired, but he's kept his distance for the most part. He's apparently trying to rewrite the narrative now, telling mutual friends that he was replaced, that he's the real victim in all this. But not many people are buying it. Most folks saw how he acted, at the dinner party, afterward, and they know the truth. Brooks apologized more than once for the things she said that night, but I told her, actions matter more than words. And her actions? They've shown me that she's serious about building something healthy, with mutual respect and real boundaries. Next month, we're moving in together. And this time, it feels right. Not rushed, not reactive. Just right. We've had disagreements since that night. Of course we have. But now, we handle them differently. We talk things through as equals. No outside noise. No emotional interference from someone trying to control the narrative. Someone once commented that you can't compete with history. They were right. But that's not what this was about. This wasn't about competing. It was about recognizing that not all history is worth preserving. Sometimes, the longest relationships in your life are the ones doing the most damage. Familiar doesn't always mean healthy. To everyone who followed along, who offered advice or support during the rough parts, thank you. Truly. Sometimes, standing your ground and knowing your worth is the best kind of self-care. And sometimes, it gives someone else the strength to do the same.